I think everybody's been negatively impacted, but those are really the biggest priorities that I've seen from constituent communications, and that's why I'm really appreciative for Patrick to get on here. And I guess in a second we'll hand it over to him to talk about what's the latest from the Department of Labor and Employment. But it's been a difficult road so far. A lot of people are so negatively affected that I think the least we can do is try to put out the information out there about how they can at least get unemployment insurance, or how we can help small businesses to the extent that we can. So thanks again, Jonathan, for setting it up and for being proactive on this. And if you do have specific questions, by the way, I'm not sure who's on this. We can't see who's on this. We can just see ourselves talking. So, but for those that are on this, if you're in Eastern Boulder County, my district is Senate District 17. That's Louisville, Lafayette, the Boulder County part of Erie, and all of Longmont. And Representative Jaquez Lewis, who I think is going to be getting on, represents about half of that district, and Representative Singer represents the other half. So we're covering Eastern Boulder County. So if you have any questions and you're in that area, please feel free to get in touch with us. And even if you don't live in the area and you get in touch with us, we'll send you over to the state senator or the state representative that represents you if that's going to work. So thanks again. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, I think, at this point.
All right. Well, I'll just give a quick brief update, and it looks like Representative Jaquez Lewis is joining us as well. Frankly, I'm going to reserve most of this time for Patrick and for your questions. I will say that since the beginning of this crisis and the stay-at-home order, I've kept contract workers very close to my center of attention, because I saw that they were not getting the benefits that everyone else was getting. And so as we know, this crisis has really highlighted a lot of the traditional failings that we've seen in our community, in our society. And now we have an opportunity today to actually underline and highlight the assistance that's coming down the pike. And so I want to thank the Department of Labor and the governor for really advocating with us at the federal level to make sure that we are covering all workers. In Boulder County, it's very unique. We have a lot of contract employees, whether you're in the tech industry, the gig economy, or you're working at a concert venue and major public events. A lot of those workers are independent contractors. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to ask those questions, and I'm going to let Patrick take it away now.
Thank you, Representative Singer, and thank you, Representative Jaquez Lewis, and thank you, Senator Foote. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm glad to be here. I think the first thing I need to say, since I'm the Director of Policy and Legislation for the overall Department of Labor and Employment, which includes, among other things, the Unemployment Insurance Division. And so the first thing I want to say on behalf of both our Unemployment Insurance Division, on behalf of our entire agency, is thank you ever so much for your patience. This has been very, very difficult from our perspective. The unprecedented level of claims, et cetera, has been inundating, to put it mildly. And as a result, I know that many of you out there have likely run into some glitches and some barriers. And so just both our appreciation and for your patience and our commitment to you that we are working hard to make sure that as we go forward, all of this gets straightened out and runs more smoothly. I think the good news is it is running much more smoothly now. And part of that is due in part to the fact that very early on when the COVID crisis was upon us, we got direction from Governor Polis directly that we needed to do anything and everything we could to remove not just bureaucratic obstacles, but any other obstacles which might get in the way of people applying for need at a very, very urgent time. And the governor put that forward to us in an executive order, both in terms of expediting claims, eliminating week waiting periods, and also expediting the period of time to get actual financial benefits out the door and into either your bank account or onto your debit card if you're applying for if you're eligible for unemployment insurance. I can go into more detail with that, but as Representative Singer pointed out, the key piece for today was to emphasize that we are finally going to have tomorrow up and running the access for independent contractors, gig workers, and others who might otherwise not be eligible for traditional state unemployment insurance to be able to apply for the federal benefits. Those benefits are called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA, P-U-A is the acronym. And they are part of the federal relief package. And as Representative Singer said, and this can be discussed over the longer term once we come out of this crisis as well, as to the wisdom of the policy, but current policy does not allow for unemployment insurance benefits under the state unemployment system for people who are not W-2 employees, to put it most simplistically. So this program beginning tomorrow, or that will be up and running and open for applications beginning tomorrow, is for people who were otherwise not eligible, and it dates back as far, depending on when you may have lost your income, it can date back as early as February 2nd of this year. And we will, in fact, as we're processing these applications, be able to put into effect retroactive payments for that period of time for which you were eligible, even though we had not had the application process up and running. I'm not saying you automatically can go back to February 2nd. I'm saying that the time for which you lost your work and or your income can date back that far, but you'll know the specific date yourself. As you prepare to get onto this system, the other thing to know, I think many people have read about that the federal relief package also included an additional $600 per week of benefits. That is an additional $600, which, whether you apply and qualify under this pandemic unemployment assistance program, the PUA program that we're launching tomorrow, or under the traditional state unemployment insurance program, that additional $600 per week provided by the federal government will go into effect for your claim as well. So that should happen, knock on wood, I always say, should happen seamlessly. In terms of what we've been facing, and part of the delay, the large part of the delay with regard to getting the federal application process up and running, is that we got their guidance two Sundays ago, so precisely 2 weeks ago today, and have been working 24/7 with our third-party contractor Deloitte, as well as with the state's Office of Information Technology, to get everything programmed so that we could in fact process these new federal claims for people otherwise not eligible for unemployment insurance. That, like I said, will go up tomorrow. I don't have a specific time for when it's going up, but I think if you just assume go on the system beginning tomorrow, and it should be up and running. One of our deputies at the agency said, "Don't give a time, don't give a time." I said, "Why not? I want to give a time. I want to know precisely what time this thing opens up." They are shooting for as early as they possibly can, but they're beta testing the system as we speak right now to make sure they've got as many of the kinks out of it as they possibly can. So again, we will ask for your patience. My understanding with regard to how quickly you will hopefully see your benefits is that for prior benefits, that is those dating prior to today and this coming work week, they're hoping to have those out and onto your accounts within 5 to 8 working days. For the remainder going forward, we're still pushing for that up to 14 days to get those benefits out the door. Once they are out the door, they should be rolling on a weekly basis. I told Representative Singer this morning, in terms of putting this in some context, I wanted to just give a couple of big picture numbers. We've had to date, directly related to COVID, we've had roughly 250,000, actually a few more than that, unemployment insurance claims. That's just on the state side, of course, since we don't start until tomorrow with the federal benefit claims. So 250,000 plus claims. Just last week alone, we had more than 110,000 claims. And the reason that number is meaningful to me is because that number exceeds the total for calendar year 2019. And I think that's an important context to keep in terms of what we're dealing with here. This is obviously, there's not a lot of good news for anybody involved right now. I think we're all pulling for one another, and I'll just stop with that and begin to answer questions, other than to also thank the 3 legislators I'm working with today and your colleagues for the work you're doing to help us get our information out the door, and also to make sure that your constituents who may run into roadblocks or problems have an avenue to get to me if we can help troubleshoot those things going forward. So thank you, and available to answer questions and or have more conversation.
All right. Well, thank you, Patrick, again. We've got about 20 questions already lined up on the Q&A side of things. And I see we still have a black square here that just says panelist, and at the risk of perhaps empowering a Zoom bomber, just want to see, Sonya, is that you? Have we got you on yet? Still trying, maybe. All right. Well, we'll just keep rolling with the questions at this point, and Senator Jaquez or Representative Jaquez Lewis will keep trying to get you in there. This has been a very common question. I know you responded to it a little bit, but it says I applied to. I'm assuming that's I applied too early for self-employed status, but was approved for part-time W-2 jobs. Self-employment is my main income. I was wondering the steps to fix this since it doesn't reflect my primary income. Also, should I request payment or wait until it includes my main income as an independent contractor? So lots of questions about people who are both self-employed plus W-2. So feel free to respond there, Patrick.
Thank you, Representative. And I tried to get a little bit more detail on this. I have some more detail, but not the complete answer to it. This is a great question. If you are in fact of that growing part of the population that has multiple sources of income, some of which are W-2, some of which are not W-2, or independent contractor or otherwise gig work, the shortest, simplest answer I can give you is that if you have W-2 income of $2,500 or more for the last calendar year, then you need to apply for the state benefit, for the standard state unemployment insurance benefit. Now that begs some other questions. Let's say I only had $2,500, for example, and I made $250,000 in my dreams in independent contractor income, and I have lost all of that. How would I go about getting a fair calculation based on all of the income I've lost? I'm going to need to work further on that, and I apologize for not having the rest of the answer, but the first part of the answer is that if it's more than $2,500 of W-2 income, you apply for the state program. You will also get the $600 per week in addition to whatever that calculated benefit is for the W-2 piece. And then I would suggest going through the application process, and I will continue to research at our end and work to get an answer to how you would go about supplementing that additional lost income.
Okay. All right. So next up, let's go with, for those of you who don't get answers today, we'll work to get more complete answers to you, or better answers in the next couple days. So let's see. Let's see. Will Social Security information be required? What other documents? If 2019 taxes have not been filed, will 1099 for 2019 be accepted?
Say that again. If which haven't been?
Yeah, no, I'll try.
Taxes haven't been filed?
Yeah, I'll try and cue that one up again. So will Social Security information be required? What other documents will be required? So, and specifically they ask, if 2019 taxes have not been filed, will 1099 for 2019 be accepted?
The answer is yes. They should have they should, if at all possible, have access to 2018 and 2017 tax returns. I see that our missing legislator has just shown up on the screen.
Sorry sorry about that. I think technology was in control today, but we conquered it.
Representative Jaquez Lewis, I think you were just trying to make me look good. I always feel like I'm the guy that can't make the camera work. So thank you for.
No, I'll do my part.
So to answer that question, Representative Singer, yes, I believe if you haven't filed 2019 taxes yet, then those forms should suffice. And if it turns out not to be the case, please let us know.
I think we'll all find out shortly. So,
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, I have a quick update for you.
Well, that's what I was going to ask for. So go for it.
Breaking news, thanks to Senator Fenberg and Patrick, you might have already shared this, so I apologize if I'm repeating, but I noticed that there's going to be 2 virtual town halls tomorrow. Did you already announce those?
No, and thank you.
Yes, that they're sponsored, actually one at 9:15 by the Department of Labor. You just go to the Department of Labor website, click under events. But here's the one I really want to emphasize for Spanish speaking, self-employed gig workers. There's a lot out there. I'm going to be sending out a quick email about it. There is a Spanish town hall, virtual town hall in Spanish at 11:30 tomorrow.
It was 11 o'clock.
The thing I just got said 11:30, but you know what? I'll double check it while we're on and see if I can post. I'll do a shared screen.
Always good.
It's 11:30. You're correct, Representative.
There we go. Perfect.
And let me add a little bit more to that because I'm glad you reminded me. It is right now 1:22 in the afternoon, and that we are getting such high response on the English speaking one that they're talking about shutting down registration at 3. So go to the site is coloradoui.gov. That's coloradoui.gov. Go on there and it gives an option to register for either the English language one or the Spanish language one. It might as well, if you can, register for either one of them now. I don't know that they'll take the Spanish one down since they only had, I think they had under 500 signed up for that one, but they had thousands on the English speaking one. So hurry up, get it while it's still on site online. We are going to try, because of the popularity, we are going to try and offer those again later this week as well. So thank you for reminding me to talk about that.
Okay, speaking of registration, and Patrick, I apologize if I missed this one. And another question here is, what's the earliest time you can register when the UI website goes live? Does it start 12:01 a.m., 9 a.m., or is that still sort of a moving target?
It is. Thank you, Representative. That is a moving target. I was laughing about that a little earlier. I had thought we were going to say 6:30 a.m., but I've been told that we can't commit to a time because they're still beta testing the site this afternoon as we speak. So I was trying, I ask people this and they give me the formal answer, and then I think, well, but that wouldn't be a good enough answer for me. So here's what I would tell myself. I would say, well, I guess I'll get up as early as I possibly can and try it, but I will also remember that guy said it might not be up and running this morning first thing, so I won't give up. I'll try again later if I don't see it accessible when I try it the first time in the morning.
Jonathan, I can tackle one of these questions here. It's from my good friend Daria.
Okay.
Have you already tackled that one yet?
No, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so Daria was asking, she's got electronic transfer set up already for a particular type of check she receives, but she's saying that the state says that she owes money and that you have to correct that error. I had a constituent, similar situation. She owed money to the federal government. They will not, until you correct that error, they will not send you the self-employed or the gig worker money. So you've got to fix that problem first before you can apply for the other. That's what my constituent told me.
Huh.
Yeah, what do you think, Patrick? You got any additional?
I think that I would recommend, this goes back to the governor's directive to us to try our darndest to get this much needed relief into people's hands. So I would recommend apply for the benefit. and let's see what the system does with it. With regard to SSA and other things, this is an unemployment insurance system, and it is not related to SSA or FICA or other federal or state withholdings. It's an unemployment insurance system. So go ahead and apply. If it turns out that that's the case, we'll find out about it. But no harm lost trying to get the application going.
So Pat, that brings up a behind the scenes question. I know the COBOL system that everybody's trying to bring up to speed. We've had issues with the state system because it was written in COBOL. It must be behind the scenes linked to the federal system. And maybe that's why my other constituent got this message about trying to apply for funds. So could it be having to do something with the link to the federal system?
I just don't even want to speculate about that, Representative. Here's what I know. I know that our system, yes, people like to talk about COBOL just because everybody knows that if you say something like COBOL or Fortran, it's like referring to hieroglyphics. But having said that, the system has been upgraded to a certain degree already. And I do know for a fact that the federal component of the system that's going live tomorrow does not include COBOL. And the two systems, the state system and the federal system, what's more both critical and daunting from my perspective is that both systems are supposed to work together in sync. So whether I apply for the state UI or the federal UI, that money is those resources are being dispersed through the state unemployment insurance system. And so that same transfer of balance to your checking account, if you've got online, if you've got the ability for that, or alternatively to a specially issued debit card if you do not have an online account which can receive electronic transfer, then that's the same system for both the state and the federal.
Hey, Patrick, I had a quick question. You said earlier, at least in the response to the first question about somebody that has income that's split between W-2 and contractor, and you talk about the difference between applying for state UI and federal UI. Is there a possibility that some should apply for both, or do you have to choose one at the beginning? How does that work in particular, if you know?
And Senator, that's the part of the question that I apologize I don't have an answer to. I mean, obviously, I do know this much. If you have W-2 income of $2,500 or more, then you must apply for the state unemployment system. You shouldn't try and ignore that and just go to the federal system because most of your income was independent contractor. But having said that, I need to get the rest of that answer because obviously that could leave a lion's share of income uncompensated or loss of income uncompensated. So I need to find out. I don't know right now, and I wish I did, whether or not you can apply for both. I know that you have to apply for the state one. And when you apply for the state one, that will also include the additional $600 federal payment, but it would not necessarily, without a separate application, include the pandemic unemployment assistance, which is for gig workers and independent contractors.
So Patrick, just a quick time check. I know I should have expected that we were going to get the number of questions that we're getting here. Can you hang with us for another half hour or so and answer some more questions?
Certainly.
All right.
Well, I can try. I'm sorry I don't have complete answers on some of them.
Well, you know what, and what we'll do is we're taking notes. This is also being recorded and broadcast, and so we're going to go back through and see if we can provide better answers for folks, if we can get you a more thorough response. But this is definitely helpful. So
Jonathan, we had another question for the Spanish. Did you see that one? Yes, Rosanna. I believe Rosanna was asking about sharing the more information about Spanish speaking workers. So Rosanna, I'll try to email you this. You've shared your email and I'll try to send you the link. You do have to pre-register for the Spanish speaking town hall. I just linked on it myself. The problem is I can't share my screen for this panel discussion because I think Jonathan has the magical powers of sharing screen. But I will email you since you were kind enough to send your email. So I will send you this link as soon as we hang up here.
All right. Yeah, no. And what we'll do is we're getting more response for that. If we hear more interest in this, we can certainly do a repeat of this in both English and Spanish. We're actually setting up translating ability, live translation ability for on Zoom, and working to get someone who can do live translation, which is a unique skill in of itself. I've got a pretty specific question here, but before that, anonymous attendee says, anyone else feel like they need to read more after seeing Pat's background? Wow, that's awesome. So, thanks for guilting us, and this is why I have spare and sparse walls in my home, because now people know I'm just a open mind here. So,
Thank you. Nice.
to anonymous attendee, thank you for the compliment to Patrick there.
All
right.
I'll also quickly jump in and tell you that I just sent Rosanna that link. So
perfect. Great.
hopefully that will go through.
Thank you. So Sandra here is asking, I'm self-employed. She opened a case with Colorado a few weeks ago, then quickly realized she couldn't because she was self-employed. They called in and told their case was canceled, but then this week received a PIN number and a debit card. They then called back again, and the Department of Labor didn't know a whole lot on this one, but said it was the card was most likely canceled, and that it should be okay for Sandra to go ahead and properly apply this week as she is self-employed. So, she's looking to get a definitive yes if it was canceled and make sure she's good to go. That may be something I just need to forward on to you, Patrick.
Yes.
And so I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. And
suggest both forward that on to me, Representative, and you said Sandra is her name? Yep. Sandra, I would encourage you, don't even wait for confirmation on the card having been canceled. Go ahead and apply tomorrow. And,
okay.
And I really am of the opinion that when in doubt, get your application process moving forward if you can. And, we'll sort out sweeping up afterwards, as it were.
So what I'm going to do, Rep. Jaquez, Lewis, or Senator Foote, I'm sure you can see the questions here. If you want to start pulling out some of these questions and asking them, I'm just trying to go through and make sure that we're not getting duplicate questions. So I'm going to ask one more, then I'm going to let you guys.
How goofy is this look? Can you actually see the links here?
Someone quick, take a screenshot.
I'd rather put this up than my face. So
well, I would actually rather use a simpler one, which is coloradoui.gov. Just type that into your browser, coloradoui.gov.
I'm sorry, Jonathan. I can't see the questions since I had to log in on the phone for some reason. I can't see the questions, but I'll try to follow up if something comes to mind.
Sure. So I'm going to ask one more, and then I'm going to work on putting up the coloradoui.gov website and do a screen share with everyone.
There you go. Good.
So sorry, Rep. Jaquez Lewis, we're still going to have to look at your face unless you've got another thing that you'd like to put on your notepad.
I'll keep flashing cards up here. So let's see, Daria. Okay, we've got a repeat. Hi, Daria. Thank you for attending. I'm not gig. I was told I don't have to apply because I received Social Security. Okay, then she should be fine if she's already in the system, right? Pat, I think she's, let me close out of the question so I can see you. I think she's basically already getting the payments. So if she's not self-employed gig worker, she doesn't have to sign up tomorrow. Is that correct?
I'm reading this question and I'm having a difficult time understanding what she's asking.
She's trying to figure out if she really needs to sign up tomorrow. I believe. Yes. Daria, if I don't have that right, just
If Daria thinks she doesn't need to sign up tomorrow, then she should take a chance on that. She needs to know that my recommendation to her is that she should sign up. There we go.
Okay.
She's on Social Security though, right?
No.
Yes.
I'm trying to say, forget Social Security and the rest of it. If you've got Social Security benefits flowing and other benefits flowing, that is terrific. What I'm saying is, in order to ensure that you access the pandemic unemployment assistance, get online tomorrow and apply for that. Don't assume it's going to come to you because you're already getting a different federal benefit. And if somebody told you differently, then I'm happy to stand corrected, and I'm glad you got it.
All right.
Did we get, Jonathan, did we get Scott's question? How much money can I make and not lose my unemployment?
Keep going with the questions. Everyone hopefully can see on my screen at least the UI information that we've got here. So
Yes, that's great.
good.
Okay, so Scott asked, how much money can I make and not lose my unemployment? Does getting a small paycheck disqualify me compared to a little more gig work?
It does not disqualify you. The issue with regard to other income and how that's calculated with unemployment insurance benefits is other income is taken into account. So if, for instance, I lost a $50,000 a year job, and I'm suddenly picking up what would be the equivalent of, $10,000 a year in income, then that would be prorated against my benefit. It is important to know that unemployment insurance benefits do not make individuals whole. They go up as high as 55% of lost income. So you can typically, as a rule of thumb, figure the amount you were losing either hourly or salary. 0.55 will tell you about what your eligible benefit will be.
Great. And I think Daria responded back. It looks like she texted Health and Human Services. I think, Daria, just to be on the safe side, I agree with Pat. Just go ahead and apply tomorrow since you're already in the system. And that kind of brings up the question, Jonathan, from Zoe. Zoe says, I'm self-employed. She put in her application. She's already got her PIN number. That's great. But was approved. Now, what does that mean? Was approved for what? It's a little puzzling there. Should she reapply under the federal system? That sounds like if she got a PIN, Pat, doesn't that mean that she was applying for like a SBA loan or unemployment?
No.
That's different. Right?
No, the PIN quite probably has to do with state unemployment insurance. There's a PIN number that you use to access the account. And I think this might go back to the question that Senator Foote and Representative Singer were asking very early on in the session. It may very well be that there's eligibility under both. And I'm sorry that I don't have the answer to that. I know that if again, I go back to kind of a default point of view, which is if you have been approved for that system, that's great. But in the meantime, if you're certain that you qualify as a 1099,
Right.
Independent contractor, gig worker, go ahead and get on that system tomorrow and apply for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it a high priority tomorrow at the office to find out precisely how they reconcile the difference between the two, since that's obviously going to be true for a number of people.
Do you think it has to do with the fact if you're self-employed, you've got 1099s that you can show, whereas if you're just the unemployment before would be the W-2? I mean, I assume it probably has something to do with that.
Right, you would have the W-2 form, which would show your income. The thing is, during that application process, and it is be ready for, be patient. I've heard it takes as much as 45 minutes or so to get a completed application submitted online. Is that it will ask for a variety of different information, including what other income you have besides your W-2.
So we have a question from Skylar. Do you want me to go ahead and take that, Jonathan?
Yeah, why don't you do one or two more? I'm compiling some that I'm getting we're rebroadcasting this on Facebook. So
Yeah.
I'm compiling the Facebook one. So why don't we ask another one, and then I'll hit Patrick up with some Facebook questions after this.
Great, because I can't see the Facebook one. So Skylar's asking, and hi Skylar, I hope you're hanging in there with the rent. It sounds like you got at least that partially figured out. And when does the 600 a week benefit begin? All I know the answer, and then Pat, jump in. I had from the late breaking news I just got, is it goes all the way back to March 29th. That's what I could find out, but I don't know when it actually begins.
Say that again. I apologize.
No, that's okay. His question was, when does the 600 a week benefit begin? I know from the information I just got from Senator Fenberg that it dates back to March 29th.
Yes, March 29th is the date. There are
Right.
two different sources of income here, because I'm looking at another one from Daria. Um, Daria is prolific today. But in any event, it is that the $600 is not part of that PUA that I was talking about. That PUA, you are eligible to apply back as far as February 2nd. With regard to the $600, that only dates back to March 29th. The Senator Fenberg's information is correct.
Right.
All right. One other question we're getting here: can ITIN, individual tax ID number, folks apply for UI benefits here? So I'm assuming here the question is related to whether or not people who may either have DACA or other, well, DACA, you have a social security number, so I'll correct myself there. But if you have an individual tax ID number but do not have other documentation statuses, are you able to apply for unemployment through the new system?
And the answer is, and I know that this is true for DACA, that you are eligible for unemployment insurance. And the reason for that is because it is whether or not you are legally permitted to be working and earning wages in the United States. And if you have got something, and DACA recipients do have that verification, then they are eligible for unemployment insurance for the period of time that they were otherwise eligible to be working here.
Correct. Now, but if someone solely has an ITIN number but does not have their deferred action, you know, what are the options there?
Since I'm not as familiar with other immigration status and foreign worker status issues, what I know is that you need to have affirmative evidence that you are in fact permitted to be working in the United States. So I don't know what the I-10 is. I do know that anybody who's probably working in the United States who's not a naturalized U.S. citizen probably knows what they need to present for evidence that they're allowed to be working, and that would be what they would need for applying for benefits.
Yeah, and for those folks who are, you know, are not legally permitted to work in the United States, I will say there are some good groups out there that are working to make sure that there's assistance for our working community that, you know, are not do not enjoy the same legal status the rest of us do. And the philanthropies is doing a good job, and I know I'm putting toward half of my stimulus check towards philanthropies to help out with basic cash assistance help for our workers that are doing work but lost their jobs just like everyone else, but don't have the same access to the UI system. But we'll get a more thorough answer there on that one. Seeing another
Isabel's question. That's an interesting one. I was
go for it, Sonya.
Yeah. Okay. So Isabel's asking, what if I have a W-2 for over $2,500 for last year, but only worked as an independent contractor for this year? Last year, she looks like she was both. Last year, she was independent plus an employee with a W-2. So, I mean, if she was an independent contractor this year, I would think she should apply tomorrow.
Correct. I agree with you, Representative. That would be my point. The income she lost was from an independent contractor relationship, and she should apply for the PUA benefit tomorrow.
Great. What else do we have? This one's okay. Pat, I'm glad you hung on the line here. Okay, Tamara is asking, do married gig workers file together or separately? So the first thing that went through my head is, have they been filing as married with their income tax? Or
I'll make this one easy. Doesn't have anything to do with tax filings. Unemployment insurance is unto itself. File individually.
Do it together.
No, individually.
No,
Each individual is eligible for unemployment benefits based on hers or his loss of income.
Okay, Tamara, there's your answer.
All right, so we've got a few more questions in Facebook land here. So let's see here. Is this and I know this question has come up a couple of times, but here I'll hit folks with two more questions, and then Sonia, if you want to pick two more after I do those, we'll keep
Sure.
going. Um, is this open to business owners as well? So if you have an LLC or anything like that, if you're sort of a sole proprietorship, I think that's already been answered, but we'll, since it just came up on the feed here, I'll let Patrick respond to it again.
And I'm sorry, you need to repeat it. Excuse me, Senator.
No, that's okay. Yeah, they're coming fast and furious here. So, so anyway, the question was, is this open to business owners or just gig workers with a 1099? So if you have an LLC, you're self-employed, you're, a business owner with a sole proprietorship, this unemployment would be available to you as much as it would be the Uber or Lyft driver.
That's correct. And you should apply as a sole proprietor, a business owner, LLC. You should apply. That's precisely what the PUA is set up for.
All right, I'm going to ask one more, and then I'll kick it back to Sonia. Can you provide where, apart from the website that is hopefully still showing up on my screen, what tax documents will be asked for?
That's a good one.
I am not certain what tax documents. As I mentioned earlier, I know that we've been counseling people to have their 2018 and 2017 tax returns available. Other than that, obviously for 2019, it would be whatever you've received to date. I mean, if you filed your 2019 taxes, which not a lot of folks have, then you've got that. And otherwise, you've got W-2 or 1099s, presumably.
So
I don't know if this helps or not, but the couple of the constituents that I've been working with on the other unemployment, they were able to use just 2018 and they were fine. And that, Jonathan, that leads me to a question, and Skylar, I'll get to yours, but I'm going to do Kelsey's first. Kelsey asked, do I need a PIN number to apply tomorrow for the self-employment assistance? Pat, do you know if they're going to need a PIN for that one?
They will not need a PIN for that. They will need to get a PIN once as that's processed. We had for anybody who's been dealing with our regular state unemployment issues, they apparently, among the glitches they had was a backlog in getting pins out the door for whatever reason prior to the onset of this current emergency. They were sending those out by good old-fashioned snail mail, and now they've alleviated the backlog they had for anybody that experienced a backlog getting their PIN to access their account, and they're now pushing them out via email. But presumably the way that would work, if you're applying for the first time tomorrow, when you apply, you would then receive your PIN subsequent to that.
And I was on a call with your whole department. When was that? The 9th maybe of April. And they had now put up a quick link, quick access to get a PIN number right on the front of the website for those people that maybe haven't applied for the PIN yet.
Yes, and you can still do that by going to that very same site that the Representative Singer still has on the screen. It's a more robust and interactive site than just the registration for tomorrow's events, and you can also go to that for the PIN, Representative, to your point.
Jonathan, can I go ahead and finish Skylar's part 2 question?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. So he was able to get 2 weeks of payment. Let's see, but he had to send back. I had 2 weeks of payment sent back to the Department of Labor because he hadn't received his PIN yet, so he could change his direct deposit info. How long are reissuing of payments taking? You might not know the answer to that, Pat. I have no idea. I haven't heard of this one.
No, I don't know the answer to that. And Skylar, I apologize for that glitch. Check in via the general system tomorrow to see what you can find out, and certainly send me an email if you can't. And I'll see what I can do to track down an answer for that. Presumably they'd be able to turn around pretty quickly, but famous last words, right? why don't I give everyone on here my email as well. It's Patrick, Patrick .Teagarden. That's TEEGARD as in David, EN at state, STATE.co.us. And each of the 3 legislators on the phone knows how to hunt me down if for some reason you have a problem with that.
So this is a question that's more for the lawmakers, but Patrick, if you can, if you have any insights into what the governor's office is doing, this is more towards myself, Senator Foote, Rep. Jaquez Lewis. Question about, basically, the assistance through the Paycheck Protection Act is largely been gobbled up at this point, or has been entirely gobbled up. And so there's a lot of people out there, especially small businesses, that unfortunately were turned away in part because some of the larger businesses had the speed and wherewithal to be able to pull this a lot faster. And so, what I can say is, I'm communicating, well, this is a long process answer. So Senator Foote, I just got a text here that you got kicked on and kicked off. So I don't know if you heard that question, but if you want to, if you have any thoughts on what we're doing on the way of protecting small businesses here in Colorado, I'll let you and Rep. Jaquez Lewis respond to that one as I'm compiling some things, and then I have my own answer as well.
Yeah, can you hear me at this point?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, this is my broadband has been kicking me off. I'm not sure what's going on here, or my Wi-Fi, I should say. But anyway, I guess the only thing I would say is that the Paycheck Protection Program funds have been spoken for at this point, at least what was the initial bill. But I know that I have, and I think others have from the state level, been really pushing upon our federal counterparts that there needs to be more of the Paycheck Protection Program. And I know that those negotiations are going on. I would never be able to predict how it's going to go on the federal level, but I know that they're hearing from us and from other legislators that this is really a top priority to put in another round of spending for whatever bill comes out of Congress. That's probably the best I could tell you right now, unfortunately, because I just don't think the money's there right now. If there had not been an application sent in before now, there's going to be some difficulty unless there's another round that gets passed through the Congress.
Jonathan, I don't think I have much to add. I was listening to, I think it was PBS this morning, and they were saying they're close to a deal to get more funds, but I don't know any more than what Senator Foote just shared.
Okay, so the other thing that I'll just add, and Rep. Jaquez Lewis, you might remember this better than I do. So the governor has set up a task force of several teams. One is looking at economic recovery, and I want to say Representative Byrd is
Yes,
our liaison. Okay, so I remembered that at least. So Representative Byrd is one of the individuals there that is assisting with this. And so what we're doing is we're finding both internal and external ways to deal with this. We are prevailing upon our federal partners to step up to the plate and make sure this isn't just going to big businesses, but really the lifeblood of our economic activity is small business. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold is doing the same thing. She's not only responsible for elections, but also works on small business assistance and business in general. And so there's federal lobbying going on. And then we're also looking at our own internal abilities to be able to see whether there are dollars that we can get out there in a really tough economic time where $3.2 billion are potentially being lost or we're going to have to be cut from the state budget. I don't know if you have any other insights on that one, Patrick, or we can just kind of keep going with questions.
No, I don't have any other than everything I've been between being a voracious consumer of national news and, following what's going on from the governor's office and what's going on with congressional delegation discussions, et cetera. I mean, I have to believe there's another round coming.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So I'm looking.
Want to take another question, or
yeah,
I don't know what our timing is.
Sonya, why don't you take it away, and I'm going to keep compiling on my side here. So
okay, we've got one from David. When is income considered income? When the job is billed or when it's collected? So if he's a gig worker, he's billed them, but he hasn't gotten the money yet. I guess, I hope I'm doing that right, David. I was trying to take a guess on what you meant by that, but
Yeah, I understand that, and but I don't have a precise answer for it. I do have my own speculation on this, is that it must be when it's received. I mean, unemployment insurance is not, is based on your actual income. So it's not based on your projected income. It's based on what you lost. So I will confirm that. And again, feel free to use my email if you need to, unless you can find an answer on our website, which we continue to reference, the coloradoui.gov. It might be on there, but otherwise I will find an answer to that.
And what I'll do as people get back to work at the, virtually speaking at the Capitol tomorrow is compile these questions and get some written answers for folks.
Great.
This one is looking a little bit, well, Patrick, I'm gonna let you tell me if this is in Department of Labor's wheelhouse or not. So it looks like this might be more of a Department of Human Services issue. I'm a kinship caseworker, and it appears as though stimulus monies are going to the parents of children, despite some of the children being in county custody. There are a few providers that have county children and are bearing the brunt of coronavirus, homeschooling, electric bills, and a whole host of other issues, which is where I believe the money was intended to go. However, when looking at 2018 taxes or 2019 taxes, it deceptively appears that the children are at home, deceptively appears the children are at home with their birth parents. How should I advise these providers? Unemployment, if I remember correctly, I think this is more a question about the stimulus dollars as opposed to unemployment, but
Right.
just correct me if I'm wrong there. And that is a question that I'll get onto the Department of Human Services otherwise.
Well, I was just going to suggest, let's get that onto the Department of Human Services. And going back to what you said a moment ago, Representative, if you get these written up, I will commit to going through the whole list and getting follow-ups back in writing so that you can push those back out as well, because there've been some very good questions that deserve answers here. With regard to that one, I'm the wrong person to ask, because I tend to get frustrated with people who we're in such dire straits at such a difficult point in our history right now, that I tend to get frustrated with people that are worried that somebody might somehow get a few bucks in their pocket that they're not entitled to. I don't think that there's going to be rampant fraud, and to the extent that there is any sort of misuse of the system, all of the different agencies that are involved have got the wherewithal and the ability to go back and try and recoup those funds if they were distributed inappropriately.
All right, Patrick, easy softball question here. And actually back to that, I agree. And I think what the question there was more about, there are foster parents that are struggling right now and could use the dollars to help these youth who are in foster care. And the dollar, it's not to say that other people don't need the money as well, but these are parents who are taking care of kids who would otherwise be in group homes. And so we'll get with Department of Human Services on that one. Pat, what is your email again?
oh, yes, I held it up for a second there, but go ahead.
I just typed it out onto a question from Daria. It's patrick.teagarden. That's TEEGARD as in David, EN. So patrick.teagarden at state, state.co.us.
Awesome. And while everybody's still jotting, Todd and Nancy have basically the same question, I believe. If they haven't received 1099s yet, of course, they might not have for year 2020. What are they going to use for documentation? Todd's was a little bit more specific. Yeah, he's self-employed, doesn't have the 1099s for this year. Is he going to be able to apply? Nancy's are what documents needed to apply for this year, because she doesn't have her 1099s yet. I don't know what documents they're going to need. Do you have any guesses on that, Pat?
No, I don't. If they've got whatever most recent tax tax forms people have, and whatever most recent income forms you have are what are the best you can do, right?
Right.
So bring
Like a
those.
check stub, like a check stub,
Yeah,
possibly.
I
Yeah.
would think so. And obviously, after this gets up and running tomorrow, if we find out otherwise, there's going to be a lot more information to follow. And
Yeah.
we'll be responsible for having to get that information out the door if, in fact, the documents that people have are not adequate for purposes of getting their claims awarded.
All right, and I'm just hitting the share screen again with the Colorado UI website there, so people can take a look at that. Once again, hit the registration form and make sure that people are able to access that in a reasonable fashion. Patrick, I know.
Jonathan, Lori has a question. She's gonna, or she is working for the census.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know. If
yeah,
you see, can you see that one?
I see that one. Why don't you take it away though?
Well, the problem is it says I would appreciate a follow-up answer to my questions. I don't have her previous questions. Let me see if I can, let me go back up and you could do another one while I try to find it.
Well,
Yeah.
while you're looking, let me just jump in with one piece I see of that I should have mentioned earlier. If you were scheduled to begin a job and you have got written verification that you were scheduled to begin a job, then you are eligible for the federal pandemic unemployment assistance benefit. So to the extent that she's talking about census workers who were supposed to begin working with us, but were then not able to, they would be eligible. And presumably the census is an organization which would confirm that they were supposed to have begun work.
Yeah, I don't see the first part of her question, but Pat, your answer there might have helped.
So, like I said, we're going to keep trying to get to these things. Patrick, thank you for agreeing to help provide written answers, although you may not see that there's about 47 questions here. So,
Oh my.
Patrick, I don't know if you shared the statistics, and I apologize, I might have missed this, about just the total number of people who have applied for unemployment insurance in the last week, as opposed to the as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, I mentioned that at the very outset, but just one more time, because I think it's really one of those numbers that opens your eyes to the extent of the crisis we face, is that for last week alone, we had, I believe that was the week ending Thursday of this past week, so the 19th, or the, whatever that was, the 16th, there were more than 110,000 unemployment insurance claims under the state unemployment insurance system. That by comparison exceeded all the total number for calendar year 2019. We have already received more than 250,000 claims for under this particular emergency. So it's tough stuff.
Yeah, it really is. As I know, you've basically moved all your employees either to the hotline or working on the computer line right now. Are there any other questions that you might have, or and excuse me, are there any other opportunities for employment right now with the Department of Labor to help process these? Has anything been opened up there to get through the tens of thousands of people who are applying?
We are now. I don't know the answer to whether there are jobs available right now in the call center. I know that we had been hiring people. We ramped up the call center significantly, and among other things, as we launch tomorrow's public, the PUA application process, we're standing up yet another call center. This one's being provided by a third-party vendor. And they will, that will be a call center dedicated precisely to this set of benefits, the new set of benefits for gig workers, et cetera, that we've been talking about. So as to whether or not there's a job application, I don't know. I would suggest going onto the website or putting that into our follow-up questions, and I'll find out more about that. Between now and tomorrow. I will tell you on the good news side of things, once we got the system up and running, we are now processing more than 20,000 claims a day. So the system is, the backlog is decreasing significantly, and hopefully we'll be working in real-time applications here pretty quick.
If you don't have a 1099 and you're self-employed, are you still able to go ahead and apply for unemployment insurance?
Again, I would say yes. What I'm not sure of and won't know until I may have to get on there and try and apply myself tomorrow. Just
I'm
to see
thinking
what kind of
about doing the same thing, Pat. I'm thinking about doing the same thing because a couple of years ago, I actually was self-employed, and so I saw that question also from what's his name, Todd. Todd, did you get a stub when you got your check? You know, there's a stub with the check. I know I used to get that. Maybe if that's helpful at all, if you can dig those out. Sometimes I would have to do this several years ago. I'd have to do invoices, and then when the check came in, I could do a paid and who paid me. I'm trying to think of ways you can do documentation.
And what I would suggest is go online and apply with whatever you do have, including check stubs, et cetera. And unfortunately, we'll find out tomorrow if that's not enough.
Yeah. Let's see. We had one other one having to do with W-2. It's from Susan. So if you're a small business, I don't think this will be a self-employed question. If you have a small business and get a W-2 because she's a partnership, let's see. You will need to file regular unemployment. I think that sounds correct, because if she gets a W-2, she's not self-employed.
Yeah, I'm not. It's hard to know with that with regard to choice of business. This is the Senator Foote, forgive me, I'm a recovering attorney. Maybe you know this stuff, but I mean, when people talk about choice of business entity, et cetera, those tend to get so complex. I think if you have a W-2, then probably, yes, you should file for regular unemployment. I think that's probably the easiest rule of thumb on it.
I'm guessing so.
Nancy here has a question. And she, thank you for registering to listen to tomorrow morning's call at 9:15 in the morning. I'll do another screen share for folks so they can take a look at that again. But will the PUA application be available to get started with this tomorrow? Fingers crossed. All right, Nancy, I hope that answered your question.
The answer is yes. The problem that I can't answer, and it's frustrating me, is I'd love to be able to give a time certain in the morning when this thing's going to be up and running. Originally, as I just responded separately to one of your colleagues, to Senator Fenberg, originally I was told it was going to be 6:30 a.m., but I've now been told that they don't want to commit to that because they might be working through the night, and so it might be later than that.
And Sonya, just as an update, if you want to screen share, I think I've now opened that option for you. So I'm slightly less.
I was basically going to put a similar page to yours. So I think you got it. You got the best link there.
Okay. For people who have Airbnbs, this is a great question, actually. We have an Airbnb that is a substantial part of our income. Can we use the end year statement like a 1099?
Probably so. I would say probably so. The one cautionary note I have on that is, and I've heard this because I've done a number of presentations with folks from the Small Business Administration, is be sure you don't try to avail yourself of both the small business assistance side of the relief package and also the unemployment assistance side of things. They're sticklers for the fact that you choose one or the other.
Good to know. Let's see. Since people are still watching and there's still questions coming in, I'm doing my best to get them out there, but I want to be respectful of Patrick's time. I know that it's all hands on deck right now. The Department of Labor, there are 6.5 million people, or 6 million people almost, in the state of Colorado. And I know there's more than just the 50 people here who have questions that I'm sure you're getting inundated with on a probably minute basis here. So, and I think this is probably, this may be a clarification question, and I apologize if this has already been asked. just to be clear, if I made $2,500 total since January through a W-2, but my main monthly income is self-employment, I cannot apply tomorrow. That's the question.
I was trying to avoid giving that definitive answer. What I know is if you have $2,500 in W-2 income, I'm saying you must apply for the state unemployment insurance. And then I put at the top of the list that I need to find out whether or not you can also apply for the PUA. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. Didn't have it at the beginning of the session and haven't figured it out since. But it's not that you cannot apply for it. It's that you are told to apply if you have $2,500 or more in W-2 income. You are told to apply through the state system.
All right. Let's see. Trying to see if there's any other sort of big picture questions. I know there's a lot of details, and a lot of people are asking, well, what time do I log in? What time do I log in?
Yeah,
and so and once again, please go to the Colorado Unemployment Insurance website that I've got up on the screen share at this point in time, because I think that's a great way to do it. Sonia, I'm gonna go look at Facebook one more time to see if there's.
Yeah, I don't see anything else. I was going to do a quick reminder. I've got a slide just about the census. I can just say it though. Please, while you're looking at everything online, please fill out your census form. Colorado will get a lot more resources, and it will make a big impact for Colorado if you can please fill out your census. So every time I get a chance to talk to anyone, even one person, I remind them, please fill out your census.
Well, that is absolutely. This is one of the things as we are looking at federal assistance coming down. If we don't get an accurate count, we will get less money per resident than another state that fully fills out their census. I know City of Boulder's been doing a phenomenal job in terms of responses. Other places across Boulder County and Colorado need to step up. It's not a competition. It's a matter of just getting everyone to fill it out so we get an accurate count. Otherwise, we won't get the right kind of accurate federal representation in terms of members we're sending on to Congress or the Electoral College that some of us have been maybe talking about in other bills. But the other thing is making sure that when federal assistance dollars come down, a lot of times they are sort of they're done per capita, per person. And if we get a lower count, that's going to be a huge challenge there to be able to accurately reflect that. I'm going to just let people do a couple wrap ups. And so Senator Foote, I don't know if you wanted to close with anything, let folks just know where they can reach out to you and what else is going on that you'll be focused on. And then I'll let Rep. Jaquez Lewis and Mr. Teagarden go. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks again, Jonathan, and Patrick, for being on this. I'm sorry that I kind of went in and out. I was just kept getting dropped, and I just had to reset our Wi-Fi, and I think finally it's fixed. So I apologize for that. But I know that Patrick gave his emails a number of times. If you don't have that or you can't find it, then you can just email us and we'll send it along to him and we'll get you the answer. So my email is senatorfoote@gmail.com. That's the best one for me. Again, senatorfoote@gmail. You can also contact me through my website as well, which is just mikefoote.org. And good luck out there with getting these benefits, and please let us know what kind of questions you have as they're coming down the pike. Thanks again.
Well, thanks, Mike. Sonia?
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to hang in there. Tomorrow could be a long day. Just be patient, take deep breaths. It'll be worth it. You obviously saw that some people that attended this town hall had been able to get in and register for other things. So to be persistent, and I'm just gonna put up the census thing so you can see it, and I'll just let Jonathan take us out.
Well, and Patrick, any other closing thoughts or things that people should know tomorrow or just going forward in terms of what we can be looking forward to?
Yeah, just thank you all very much. Again, as I said at the outset, thank you for your patience, because I know it's been frustrating and slow over time. And as we, try to sort through these unprecedented questions with new answers, we will get them to you. And I will commit, as I did earlier, to work with Representative Singer and Senator Foote and Representative Jaquez Lewis to get answers to these in writing in terms of follow-up. And in the meantime, very best wishes tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you to Senator Foote, Representative Jaquez Lewis, all of our viewing audience who are still with us, but probably dropping off very quickly now that I'm talking. So as a sneak preview, on the 27th, we are going to be doing a housing town hall. We will have representatives from public housing. We're working on getting some landlords and tenant advocates, so we can all sit and talk about this together. I think it's really critical. As rent comes due, as mortgages come due towards the first of the month, that we get the best information out there. So we will have attorneys, public policy experts, and like I said, also just landlords and renters who are working on finding a solution to make sure that we are all able to keep ourselves housed during a public health crisis. Also, I'm glad that we're finally opening up our benefits to gig economy workers. This should have been something that was in place years ago, and really has highlighted the importance of our state and federal lawmakers to find new ways to protect our gig economy workers, our independent contractors, because those traditional safety nets that we have created didn't really look into what the 21st century was going to be like. So we've got some work to do to be able to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. In the meantime, everyone take care of each other, stay safe, and we'll be responding to your questions offline as well as on Facebook for the time being. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
You got it. Take care.
Bye, everyone.